morning, everyone. So good to have you. Welcome to Shoreline. We want to give a very warm welcome to all of you guys that are watching online. Come on, let's give it up for our online congregation. We love you guys. And also our Shoreline South congregation that's joining us live at this point in time. Let's give it up for our Shoreline South. We love you guys. You know, I was thinking, over the last couple of days, and I don't know if I've told you this in a little while, but I just want to tell you now, it is such an honor and a privilege to be your pastor and just to do what we get to do. I love you guys so very much, and I just wanted to take a moment and pause at the beginning of this message to let you know how honored and how blessed I feel to be able to be your pastor and to and just to do what we do together. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. And if I haven't told you in a while, I just want you to know you are loved and you are appreciated and you are valued. And I was reading in my quiet time this morning this verse from Psalm 84, where it talks a little bit about how when we gather together and worship, that the intimacy that we have in relationship with God, it's like one day in God's presence, one moment experiencing God's goodness is like 1,000 days of joy all rolled up into one. And I thought, isn't that such a beautiful description? When we come together, we worship the Lord together, and He deposits something in our hearts that we can't get anywhere else. And I hear this testimony all of the time that people say, I came to church one way and I left another way. I came discouraged, I left encouraged. I came down, I left up. I came doubting, I left with faith. I came, feeling unloved, and then I just left just feeling full and loved by God. And that's the heartbeat of Shoreline, and we're just so glad that you're a part of it. Amen? All right, I just wanted to say that. All right, let's all of us stand to our feet. We're going to do what we do every single week. We're going to wrap our understanding around a collection of phrases that we call our Shoreline Creed. And this just reminds us that Christianity at the end of the day is all about God's amazing grace. And if you're new to Shoreline, you can just read along. The rest of us, we say this with some enthusiasm and passion. You guys ready? Come on, you guys ready? Yes. Well, I'm going to make you wait 1 second longer, because you know that it takes the commitment of a lot of incredible volunteers to make Shoreline happen week in and week out. And today we are honoring one of our 3 team members. And you say, well, why do you call it the 3 team? Because it involves people who help us accomplish our vision, which is to help people know God, find life, and make a difference. And one of the volunteers that does that is really one of the most precious people on the entire planet. He's been with us forever and ever. Give it up for Sylvia Rodriguez. She's amazing. She's amazing. All right, with that being said, let's do our creed. You guys ready? Yes. Come on, you guys ready? Yes. Here we go. I am loved by God. I cannot earn it. I cannot lose it. I am forgiven and made brand new. In Christ, I live with passion and purpose. I am empowered by the Spirit to be the church in the world and to live this love revolution. Come on, let's give God praise for that. All right, you may be seated. King David was one of the heroes of the Old Testament, but he was not perfect. In fact, he did some things that he was not proud of. And if you ever want to read a psalm that, is filled with this kind of contriteness of heart, this idea of being truly remorseful and sorrowful for bad choices, you can read it in Psalm 51. And in Psalm 51, there's this one portion of his prayer that just kind of stands out to me, and it's going to be the topic of our discussion here this morning. He says here in verse 10 of Psalm 51, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." And that's a beautiful way of saying, you know what, God, I want you to change me. I want you to make me better. I want you to do that inner surgery in my life so that I can become the person that you want me to be. And I want to talk for a couple of minutes together here this morning on the topic of real change. Real change. Now, let me ask you, I'm going to ask you to be honest for just a moment. How many of you came to church today and you know that there are some things that you would like to change about your life? Come on, let me see your hands. Okay, if you didn't raise your hands, you need to change your propensity for lying or deception or whatever that is. The reality is that we all have areas of our life that we would like to change. Some of us would like to live with more joy. Some of us would like to live with more peace. Some of us would like to treat the relationships in our lives better than we do, whether it be our kids or our spouse or our friendships. Some of us would like to be better in handling our resources. Maybe we spend too much, or maybe we save too much and we're stingy and we're not generous. Maybe some of us need to change our health and the way we approach our physical bodies. Maybe we need to change some of our eating patterns, or maybe we need to initiate some positive change for exercise in our life. Every one of us has things that we'd like to change. Maybe some of us have some unhealthy addictions in our life: drinking, smoking, drugs, or pornography. Maybe some of us, we're too tired all of the time because we stay up late watching nonsense television, and we say, I don't know why I do that. I would like to change. Perhaps some of us would like to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with the Lord, and we'd like to develop some positive habits in our daily devotions, or maybe we'd like to make changes in the way that we approach, how we use our spare time, so that maybe we can carve out some of it for serving in God's kingdom. Or maybe there are some hobbies that we know would be healthy for us to adopt, and so we want to adopt those things. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here today, but I know there's some things about Laura that she needs to change. She cusses too much. She cussed at me the other day, and I'm just trying to be real here, but she said, "You little shoot," except she didn't say shoot. Use your imagination. I was telling her, because I'm probably in like the best shape of my life right now. I weigh the least that I've ever weighed in my adult life, and so yeah, thank you. I just wanted you to boost my self-esteem by your applause, but I still have these love handles on the side. Do you ever look in the mirror and see a part of your physical body that you wish just wasn't the way it was? And I've got these love handles, and even though I'm in the best shape, and so I saw this advertisement that I could actually freeze them off. Have you seen that? You can actually freeze off different parts of your body. And so I talked to Laura about it, and she said, well, we can either send our kids to college or you can look a little bit, more like in shape. And I said, I want to do this. I want to freeze these things off. And she said, no, you can't do it because then you'll be too good looking. I don't even know how to unpack the psychology of that. But we all have things, right, in our lives that we need to change. And I want to talk about making those kinds of real changes in our life. Why don't we change? And I've got one really good reason why we don't change, because change is hard. And anyone that tells you that change is easy, well, they're trying to sell you something. I was reading the other day that for real change to take place in people's lives, it takes a concentrated effort for a long period of time. I used to think that it was 17 times. I don't know where I heard this, but somewhere there was some research done and said if you want to establish a good positive habit in your life, you need to do it 17 times, and then it'll be something that is a part of your life. And I always heard it in terms of the seatbelt. If you put your seatbelt on for 17 times, then you will establish a good, healthy habit. But a new study came out and said it's not 17 times, it is 60 straight days. Yeah, somebody is getting it right over here. 60 straight days in order to make those kinds of things in our life that we want to see as positive change actually become a part of our lives. Making changes is not easy. And you might be thinking, well, why is it so hard? I'll give you a couple of reasons. Short list. Part of the reason why change is difficult is genetics. Some of the challenges that we have in our lives, we have inherited. We get 23,000 chromosomes from our mom and another 23,000 from our dad, and they get downloaded in our lives. And sometimes there is a DNA transfer of the same kinds of habit patterns that our parents had to deal with, we actually have to deal with in our lives. Part of that is environment. When you grow up in a certain environment, you have a tendency to do what you've seen done in the past. But actually, part of it is DNA. It's actually a part of who you are, the makeup of who you are. This is a true story. Laura and I have some good friends, and the wife in this relationship, she thought that her dad that she grew up in that home was her real dad. Her whole growing up life, she never knew any different. But when she was 35 years old, she discovered that the dad she grew up with in the home was not her biological dad, but there was another man whom her mom had an affair with that was the real DNA father in her life. Now, that would be a shock to anyone to figure out that at that age in life, who you thought was your father wasn't your father. And she found that out because she was doing one of those ancestor kind of tests where you can, give some DNA and it tells you where you're from. And somehow they have this map of the United States, and it pinpointed somebody that was a 99.9% match to her. And then she discovered this family secret that everyone has kept silent about for all of these years. But here's the interesting part of the story. She contacted her real biological father, and not only are there physical similarities, but there are also mannerisms that they express life through, that even though they never knew each other and she never grew up under her dad's biological influence, they still had all of these similar mannerisms, likes and dislikes. They both loved to cook. They both had the same political convictions. They were both very vocal about it. And it was just amazing to see this DNA transfer from someone she had never met before. I only say that to say that maybe the reason why we do some of the things that we do is because there's this kind of generational thing that's taking place in our lives. And some of the positive things that are in our lives can come from our parents, but then also some of the negative things in our lives can come from our parents, like the sins of the father being passed down to the kids. Have you ever looked at your kids and saw behavior in them that you didn't like, but then you looked in the mirror and you realized that they got it from you? Just being real. And so genetics is a challenge when it comes to change. And then there are habits in our lives, and some of the habits that we have are good. My mom and dad, every single day would have a time that they had together called a burlcha. And I can't even explain that. It's an Indonesian word that they adopted. My mom, grew up in Indonesia. And so this is, a little bit of the family dynamics that I grew up with. But every single time my dad came home and at 5 o'clock after work, he would open up the front door of the house and he would say, "Honey, I'm home." And my mom would have prepared, some snacks and some drink, and they would talk about their day for 30 minutes. And as kids, there were 5 of us in the house. We knew that was sacred time. But my mom and dad prioritized their relationship, and it was a good, positive habit that all of us knew about, and it served them well in their lives. But sometimes there are bad habits that come into our lives, and it diminishes the quality of our life experiences. And the reason why it's so hard to break bad habits is because it's not just something that we've repeated. There actually are, neural pathways that are created, after we have repetitively done something over and over and over and over, these neural pathways are created in our brain, and it creates a kind of longing to do what we do. And it takes both time and real energy to change that. So not only is there the genetics and the habits, but there is also a payoff. Let's be honest. The reason why we do some of the things that we do is because there's a reward at the end of it. People say that sin is not fun, but I'm here to tell you they're wrong. Sin is fun. If you're not getting any fun out of your sin, you're not doing it right. But it's only fun in a very short season. And then it turns to pain and poison that destroys your life. A lot of the things that we do in our lives, we do because there is a reward, there's a payoff. And so we're masking the pain, or we're filling the void, or we're just trying to get a thrill. We're trying to kill the boredom. We smoke, or we drink, or we overeat, or we overstimulate to somehow deal with the emptiness that we feel on the inside. And even though we know that some of these behaviors are destroying us, we do it anyway. And sometimes there are other voices. There are other people in our lives that don't want us to get out of the lane that we're in. Why? Because they like us being in that lane, and they know that if you change, that means things are going to change for them, and they don't want to change. And so their voices are, hey, stay where you are. Keep doing what you're doing. They don't want to lose their drinking partner. They don't want you to get into shape, because then it's going to make them look and feel worse about themselves. They like you just the way you are. And if you think about changing lanes, they're going to honk and let you know that you need to stay where you are. And so when we think about change being difficult, there's the genetics, there's the habit, there's the payoff, there's the other voices in our lives, and then there's the reality that all of us know from Scripture, that we face an adversary. We face an enemy. The Apostle Paul said it like this: we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers of darkness. The Bible describes him as our accuser. He's the one who says, God doesn't love you. Nobody does. There's no hope for you. You've crossed the line. You can't change. You've tried it before, and look where it's gotten you. The truth is, you can come to church on Sunday morning and be inspired to change, and I can almost guarantee you, when you get home this afternoon, the enemy is already going to start whispering in your ears that change is not possible for you. And if it doesn't happen this afternoon, it will most likely happen sometime tomorrow or early of next week. You are the way you are, and change will not happen. Things will remain as they've always been. But you need to remember with me here today that the devil is a liar. He's a liar. Now, I know some of you here today might be thinking, with so many things stacked against us, genetics and other people and the enemy and habits and the payoff and all of that, you say, well, is there any real hope for change? And my response to that, of course, is a resounding yes. In fact, you might think that things are stacked against you, but I'm here to tell you that things are stacked for your benefit. There is way more reason for optimism and hope that we can change than not change. In fact, it's not even a fair fight. I love this verse. Again, the Apostle Paul was outlining all of the difficulties that were a part of his world, and all of the challenges that he was facing, including this idea that it's difficult to change. And I love what he says here in Romans chapter 8 and verse 37. He says, no, in all of these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. We can overcome. We can change. We can make the positive adjustments in our lives. We can live the way God wants us to live. He can make every single one of us better in all of the areas of our lives that we know we need to change in. Say, well, how does that practically happen? I think there are three things that we need to really understand about change in order to see those changes manifest in our life. And I want to outline those with you here this morning. I want to talk about identity, I want to talk about agency, and I want to talk about connectivity. Identity, agency, and connectivity. Let's talk about identity. Right off the bat, I want you to know that you are not your behavior. You're not your behavior. You are not a human doing. You are a human being. Come on, turn to your neighbor right now and just tell him you are not your behavior. Just tell him. I want him to know you are not your behavior. Now turn to the person on the other side that you awkwardly left out and say, I'm not so sure about you. Just come on, just tell them, not so sure about you. You are not your behavior, but most of us have convinced ourselves that we are. That's just the way I am, we say to our friends and our family and our neighbors. That's just the way I am. Fill in the blank. I am a workaholic. I am overweight. I am anxious. I am passive. I am addicted. I am an alcoholic. I am fearful. I am explosive. I am controlling. I am manipulative. I am angry. I am negative. I am depressed. That's just the way I am. You deflect any criticism by just saying that that's your identity, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you think about yourself and how you identify yourself actually has so much to do with how you live. And so you say to yourself, I always get nervous when I get on a plane. And then you get on the plane and you get nervous. In fact, I was sitting next to a guy not too long ago that was an investigator for the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. And so he would actually go and travel to places where there were plane crashes, and he would do investigations into all of that plane drama. And so, they would figure out exactly what happened so they can avoid those kind of crashes in the future. And when the plane left the gate, I could tell he was already nervous. He was grabbing a hold of the armrest. In fact, he kicked my arm off the rest and grabbed a hold of it himself. And he was holding on so tightly. And then when we got to the runway and we were about ready to take off, he started sweating. I'm not kidding you. He was sweating like buckets of sweat. And I'm sitting there, we had this conversation about what he did. I knew he was, a part of the National Transportation. He knew I was a pastor. And so we had already had that preliminary conversation. And now he's sweating before we're about to take off. And I'm thinking to myself, what does he know that I don't know? Like, there's got to be something going on here. But a lot of times we behave out of what we believe. Real change takes place when you believe the right things about your life. We always behave out of what we believe. That's always the case. And I'm not talking about what you think you believe or what you say to other people that you believe. I'm talking about what you actually believe in your heart. You always behave out of what you actually believe. Let me tell you something that I actually believe without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure most of you do as well. I believe in the law of gravity. Come on, how many of you agree? You believe in the law of gravity? And guess what? It influences how you behave, doesn't it? So I'm here on this stage, and I'm flirting with, the edge. But I'm under no delusions. I know that if I take one step further, what direction am I going? I'm going down unless the rapture happens. And then I'm going up, which I also believe could happen at any time. But chances are pretty good. If I take this final step, I'm going down. Why? Because I believe in the law of gravity. and it influences how I behave. I don't ever think while I'm up here, I'm just going to take a walk and maybe I'll keep on walking at this level. I don't even think that. Because I know that I know that I know. I've got a conviction, a core conviction about the way the world works. This is what I know to be true, and it influences how I behave. So I'm not saying what you think you believe or what you should believe or what you want other people to think that you believe. I'm talking about what do you really believe, and what you really believe influences how you behave. And this is what I want you to understand. If you believe that you are nothing but a dirty, rotten sinner, chances are you will behave out of that belief and do the things that dirty, rotten sinners do. But if you believe in your heart of hearts that you are a blood-bought son, daughter of the living God, you will live consistent with your new identity. In Galatians chapter 3 and verse 26, it says, you have all become true sons and daughters of God by faith in Jesus Christ. Your identity influences how you behave. And you know what? I think this is the big issue of our lives, but it's also in the small things. If you want to change a habit and you want to read more, I think you should identify in your own heart as a reader. Identify as a healthy person. Identify as someone who has sound financial skills. Believe the right things about your life, and you will live with the right kinds of behaviors. And for sure, believe that you are a treasured, accepted, blood-bought son or daughter of the living God. And when you believe that in your heart, it will change the way you behave. Amen? All right, identity. Second thing that produces real change in our life is something called agency. We don't control everything in our lives. We don't. We don't control the weather. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. That'd be great. Wish it rained more so we don't have any drought in any part of Central Texas. But we don't control that. And when it does rain, we wish that it wouldn't come with hail or tornadoes or any other drama. But we don't always control the weather, do we? We don't control other people, at least not the ones that we want a healthy relationship with. You want an unhealthy relationship, try to control, manipulate, use anger, use all the tools in your chest to try to get people to behave a certain way. But if you want a healthy relationship, you don't control the people around you. We don't control where we were born or who we were born to. We don't control our gender or our ethnicity. We don't control the height, physical height, and we don't control the depth of our voice. And you know what? That really bums me out, because I wish I controlled the depth of my voice. My voice, if I had a deeper voice, if I had a James Earl Jones voice, this church would be packed. There is a direct connection to the anointing of God and the depth of your voice. I tell the sound guys, give me more bass in my voice. More people would get saved. But I don't control that. I got my voice, mid-level. You know, it's really embarrassing. I'm going to tell you, this is so embarrassing. Sometimes I'm calling customer service and I'm telling people a problem and they say, yes, ma'am. What the heck? Freaking hang up the phone. Yes, ma'am. I'm a bulldog pastor. Yes, thank you. Someone shouted out the great one, and it's very important that you remember that. Yes, ma'am. You're no longer a part of Shoreline. But some people believe that since they don't control everything in their life, that they don't control anything in their life. And so they live as victims to outside forces. And they think, oh, bad things have happened to me, maybe some bad luck, maybe some genetics, grew up on the wrong side of the track. And so you live as a victim because you don't think you control anything. But that is flawed thinking. Yes, we don't control everything, but we do control a lot. And counselors have a word for the control that we have over our lives, and they call that agency. Agency refers to the ability that each of us have to make our own choices in life. In Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15, this is the way God created us. He said, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You, my friend, have the ability to choose. And you choose the clothes you wear, the food you eat, the people you hang out with, your use of time, how much education or lack thereof you have, how much you work, where you work, what your hobbies are, what you develop in your life, what you do with your free time. There is so much that you do control. It's called agency. And you even get to choose how you respond to adversity in life. Viktor Frankl lost his family, his career, all of his possessions in Nazi Germany, and he was held prisoner. But I love what he said, and I put it in a quote for you guys to embrace. He said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. God has given to every single one of you the ability to choose, and you can make wise choices in your life. Could I hear a good amen? You can choose today to live with victory. And I know some of you might be thinking, I've been doing bad stuff every single day. I can't imagine that I will live the rest of my life free from this bad habit in my life. Well, you know what? You don't have to think about the rest of your life. Just think about today. Choose today to live in victory. Give us this day, Jesus prayed, our daily bread. Instead of focusing on all the negative things that you want to stop doing, choose to envision the positive things that God wants you to embrace in your life, and you won't have room for all of the negative things. The truth is, we can choose. And some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, I just don't feel like changing. When I feel like changing, then I'll change. Well, if you wait until you feel like changing, you're never going to change. It is so much easier to choose your way into a feeling than to feel your way into an action. And so just choose. The feelings will catch up with your choices. You have agency. So it takes identity, agency, and connectivity. Real change always happens in the context of relationships. And you think about what we celebrate here at church today is we have actually a relationship by grace with the creator of the universe. A God so powerful that he just spoke and galaxies appeared. You're in an intimate relationship with the God of the universe who splits red seas and shuts the mouths of lions and walks on water and feeds 5,000 people from a few fish and loaves of bread. And you know what he says? He says that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. I know God's given you the power to choose, but in and of yourself, you don't even have the willpower to make the changes in your life that you need to make. If you did, you would have already made those changes. But when you're connected in a relationship with God, he supernaturally empowers our choices, and we can do all things, not in ourselves, but out of a relationship with him. And it's not just the connectivity of our relationship with God, it's also our connectivity with other people. The truth is that study after study after study confirms what the Bible teaches, that it's in the one another's that we have the strength to overcome. Love one another, forgive one another, bear one another's burdens. It's when we're connected relationally that we get over the hump, that we get over the challenges, that we live in victory, and that we make the positive changes that we need to make in our lives. I was thinking about, my high school years. I had 4 friends in high school. There were 4 of us, I should say. Ray, Eric, Kurt, Rob. 4 friends. Went through high school together. We weren't perfect, but somehow that relational connection gave us the strength to live as Christians in a world that didn't understand that in any way, shape, or form. I was sitting around with some friends just this past week, and we were talking a little bit, and they were saying, I was doing drugs and, got out of it. I did this and I got out of it. Someone else said I did this and I got out of it. And you know what my testimony was? I've never been drunk. Not a single moment in my entire life. Never. I've never smoked pot. I've never done drugs, ever. Laura can't say that. But I can say that. Just being honest. And I know what, some of you are thinking, I thank God that Laura is a part of this church. At least somebody I can relate to. But I had some friends. I don't deserve the credit. I just had some friends, and we walked through life together. I went to college, and it just so happened that there were 4 of us that came out of college together. We've done life together. Jim and Ron and Mark and Rob. And then last week, Laura already mentioned that we were in Arizona with some friends of ours, and we've just done ministry together. They're all pastors of significant churches around the country, and we've just decided that we're going to get together to hold each other accountable, to pray for each other, to do life together. And so you got Steve, and you got Casey, you got Jim, and you got Rob. And I'm not saying that there's something magical about 4, but there was a game, right? You remember that game, Connect 4? You had the blue little, discs, and then you had the red discs, and you put them in the top, and you tried to get 4 together, and if you got 4 together, you win. And now the person on the other side was trying to, block those 4 from getting together. Guess what? You have an enemy that's trying to block you from getting the relationships that you need in order to win at life. But something happens when you get 4 together. You get friends together. You are stronger than you could ever imagine. How many musketeers are there? 3. There's only 3. What's up with that? I'm just trying to tell you how important it is to be relationally connected. And that's why on Wednesday nights we have small groups. We got groups for men, groups for women. Thursday nights, celebrate recovery, relationships. It's all about relationships. Because if you want to make real changes in your life, it comes from believing the right things about your identity. It comes from celebrating your agency, the ability that you have to make good decisions. And it comes from connectivity, both with God and with the people in your life. Could I hear a good amen? Come on, let's give God praise together. Just to cement this message in our hearts together here this morning, let's all of us stand to our feet with nobody leaving early or moving around. Let's just worship together and allow the Holy Spirit to cement this in our hearts.
Come on, let's sing it. 'Cause I know the battle, I know the battle, I know the battle. The battle is yours, it's always yours. 'Cause I know the battle, I know the battle, I know the battle.
just a moment, everyone here with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I just want you to think for a moment about making a real change in your life. Most of you have already made this change, but there might be some of you here today and you're not where you need to be in a relationship with God. Maybe at one point you made that decision, but you've maybe made some bad choices and you've kind of walked away from that fellowship and you want to rededicate your life to serving him. Or maybe you've never invited him to be your Lord and Savior. This would be honestly the most special day of your life. He'll take your sins as far as the east is from the west, and you'll gain entrance into the kingdom of God, and your eternal destiny will be forever changed. And so if you're here today and you want to get right with him, or you want to rededicate your life to serving him, if that's you, just between you and God, I'm not going to ask you to come forward. Just going to ask you to be bold about it, though. I'm just going to say, if you know that's you want to make that choice today to serve the Lord, I want you to raise your hand quickly and boldly wherever you are. You say, that's me. Wonderful. God bless you. God bless you. Hands are going up all over. Those of you with your hands raised, I want to lead you in a very simple prayer, and I want you to pray this prayer out loud from your heart. And everyone else is a reaffirmation of your faith in God. Let's all of us pray together. Heavenly Father, I thank you for sending Jesus. Jesus, I ask you to come into my heart. Forgive me of all my sins. I put my trust in you, and I will live for you from this day forward, by your power, for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Would you give them all a great big hand clap? Listen, those of you who made a decision today to follow the Lord, after we're dismissed, and we'll be dismissed in just a minute, I want to encourage you to be seated. One of our prayer partners will meet you there. If you came to church today with any prayer requests whatsoever, we would be honored to pray with you. If you're online, just let us know at prayer@shoreline.net. If you are a guest or a visitor here today, don't forget to pick up your gift. It's just our way of saying thank you for being with us here this morning. We're going to close with the blessing from Numbers chapter 6. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face to you and give you peace. God bless you. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night for groups. God bless you. We'll see you then.